Hey everyone, how's it going? This is clearly not my normal studio. No, I am down in Cancun, Mexico on a 5-night trip with my family. Now, a trip like this would normally cost thousands of dollars, but here's the kicker. This trip cost $0. So how did I do it? Well, let's find out. Now, on this trip, there are 6 main areas that I need to figure out how to cover with points. This kind of trip would normally cost thousands of dollars, which I don't want to spend. The 6 areas that I need to cover for this trip are an airport hotel, airport parking, airport food, flights, a shuttle from the airport to the hotel, and the hotel. So let's start at the beginning of that list and talk about how I covered each of these areas. Now, obviously I'm still on the trip, so there are a couple things that I'm just going to have to estimate what the total will be, and then I'll tell you how I'm planning to cover it with points. We flew out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, as it offered the best pricing for the time that we needed to travel. Now, we did have a pretty early flight, and because of that, we decided to get an airport hotel to stay the night right before the flight. We do have 3 kids, and if you have kids, you know that it can be a hassle to try to get all of them ready for a flight. So the few extra minutes that the airport hotel gave us was a nice benefit. The cost for 2 rooms was $240, or $120 per room. We stayed at a Hilton hotel, and normally I would use Hilton points. However, the redemptions were not that great, so I decided to use cash instead. However, I didn't want to leave it at just cash, as that would defeat the whole purpose of this video on the first item. So instead, what I chose to use was a credit card annual credit. I currently hold the Delta SkyMiles Business Reserve card, and on that card you receive a $250 Delta Stays credit for hotels booked through Delta Stays. Delta actually has a travel portal that allows you to book hotels and even rental cars using your Delta account. And occasionally you can even earn MQDs on these purchases. So all that I needed to do was book the 2 hotel rooms using my SkyMiles Reserve card, then a few weeks later I received a statement credit for that purchase. So the first item is covered, $240 down. Now, once we got to the airport, the first thing we needed to do was park our car. And airport parking can be kind of expensive. Now, because we're still on the trip, this is one of the ones that I'm going to estimate. It should be around $100 for the total for parking. Now, to cover this charge, I'm going to use my Capital One Venture X. The Venture X has a feature that allows you to cover travel-related purchases with points. It will then give you those points in a statement credit later. Stick around because that method is going to come up more in this video. So this $100 purchase is going to cost 10,000 miles. Next up, let's talk about flights. Flights can be one of the more expensive parts of any trip, and in this case, it was the second most expensive part. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm a big Delta fan and that I generally fly out of Detroit. However, when I was looking for flights for this trip, I noticed that flights from Grand Rapids connecting through Atlanta down to Cancun were much cheaper, like $300 cheaper. And as I've said before, when you're flying with miles, you need to be pretty flexible. Now, there are tons of videos out there talking about how to get the best redemption for any vacation trip. But let's be honest, we're not always going to be able to find those redemptions, and more often than not, you might need to settle for a subpar redemption. And that's totally okay. In past videos, I've said that if you're getting at least 1 cent per point or higher, then you're doing pretty good with your redemptions. And with that being said, this was one of those trips where the redemptions were good, but they were not great. But I'm totally okay with it because again, this entire trip was covered using points and miles. And at the end of the day, that's kind of the goal. For this trip, we needed 4 tickets plus 1 infant ticket. Now the infant ticket technically is free, you just need to pay the taxes and fees that go along with a ticket. As I said before, my go-to airline is Delta, and I have Medallion Platinum status currently, so I began there. Now, oftentimes when booking a Delta flight, I will look through a partner airline, as we can usually find better redemptions than using Delta SkyMiles. Now, Delta is part of the SkyTeam Alliance, and oftentimes these Alliance airlines will sell you a ticket on another airline if they do not have their own flight available for that route. Now, when looking for these flights, Grand Rapids to Cancun, I looked on Air France's website to see what they had available. Obviously, being a French carrier, they don't have any flights available for that route, but their partner airline Delta does. And because they are partners, Air France would sell you a Delta ticket on that route. The benefit here is that oftentimes using a partner airline offers better redemptions than booking direct with an airline. The two best airlines to book Delta flights are Virgin Atlantic and Air France. You can also use KLM as they share a loyalty program with Air France. Both of these airlines offered redemptions around 32,000 miles per person. This would total 128,000 miles for all four of us. Now, while this redemption on Air France looks pretty good, one thing I always recommend doing is checking the miles directly with the airline. It's usually better through the partner airline, but not always. And actually with these flights, the SkyMiles redemption was not that far off. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have the Delta SkyMiles Reserve card, and that card has a benefit called Takeoff 15. This benefit gives us a 15% discount when we use our Delta SkyMiles. So when I looked at the Delta SkyMiles redemptions and applied this benefit, the total actually came to 128,000 Delta SkyMiles. And with a cash value of $1,840, this actually gave us a redemption ratio of 1.43 cents per point. That's actually really solid for Delta SkyMiles. Now, unfortunately, taxes and fees are not included in the miles redemptions, and if you've flown from the US to Mexico, you know how expensive those can be. We had to pay $522 total for the four of us to fly down. Now, to cover the taxes and fees, I actually had a bit of an unconventional thought. I currently hold the Chase Amazon Prime card, which earns Amazon Prime points. I honestly haven't had a great use for these points over the years, but my wife and I just continue to rack up points every time we spend on Amazon. And recently we've been taking advantage of the 6% back on purchases when you use a slower shipping method. So what I ended up doing was cashing out 52,200 Amazon Prime points. These were then deposited directly into my bank account as cash. These Amazon points are a little bit odd, and I never know how to fully use them. So this felt like a good option. Overall, I'm fairly happy with how this redemption came out for the flights. It's certainly not the best redemption out there, but 1.43 cents per point is actually pretty good. Now, before we talk about the next part of the video, I want to pause and say welcome if you're new to this channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This channel is all about helping you travel for less using credit card miles and points and doing it in a realistic way. If that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button so that you can see all future videos when they come out. One area I want to talk about that we saved a little bit of money on is airport food. As we all know, airport food can be extremely expensive, even more so when feeding a family of 5. However, through the Delta SkyMiles Reserve card, I received Delta Sky Club access for myself and my family. The Delta Sky Club is a great place to relax before a flight, and offers a wide selection of food, which makes it a great alternative to buying food in the airport. This honestly saved us probably about $150 in food. We had 2 pretty long layovers, so we probably would have had at least a full meal plus some snacks. Now, as the card holder, I receive 15 visits each year. I also receive 4 one-time guest passes. Now, my wife has her own SkyMiles Reserve card, which gives her access on her own. I also receive 4 one-time guest passes to bring friends and family into the lounge. So on this trip, I'll utilize all 4 of those passes for my kids. But I'm okay with that because of the savings we get in food, and the passes will expire in April of 2026, at which time I'll receive 4 new passes. So after we landed in Cancun, we made it through customs and immigration pretty quickly and made our way out to the airport shuttles. Now, in the past, I've used a service called USA Transfers, and they were really great, so I booked them again for this trip. For the transfer to the hotel and back to the airport cost $195. So to cover this charge, I used my Capital One Venture X, and the benefit that allows us to cover travel-related purchases. So I redeemed 19,500 miles for this purchase. So now let's talk about the hotel. On this trip, I booked the Barcelo Maya Palace, which is a really nice resort. My family's been here a few different times, and honestly, it's been really great every single time. The best part about this resort is that it is all-inclusive, meaning food and drinks are all included, which means we don't need to worry about paying for them, giving us even more savings. Another reason we chose this resort is because there is so much to do, especially for kids. It's also really nice going somewhere that you've been before, mainly because you know what to expect. So you might be thinking with the size of this resort and the amenities that it's pretty expensive, but we only paid $2,570 for one room for 5 people. That breaks down to $514 a night, and keep in mind that includes all of the food and drinks. Now, Barcelo is not part of Hilton or Marriott and does not have a way to utilize points, at least not directly. So, the best way to cover this purchase is utilizing the Capital One Venture X and the Cover Travels benefit. Now, this is a redemption that is good, but it's not great. This is where I want to restate that not every redemption is going to be great, and this is one of those ones. I do think one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen is that people just never utilize their points or miles. But honestly, sometimes the best redemption is actually just redeeming your points and going somewhere. So we redeemed 257,000 Capital One miles for this trip. So let's recap all the charges for this trip and talk about how much we saved. The first thing that we covered was the airport hotel. That cost $240 and we covered it with the Delta Stays credit. Next, we will pay $100 for airport parking. The cash value for the flights was $2,362. Next, we would have spent about $150 on airport food if we didn't have our Sky Club access. Then the airport shuttle cost $195. And finally, the hotel cost $2,570 for 5 nights. That comes to a grand total of $5,617. Now, how many points and benefits did we utilize? I utilized 286,500 Capital One miles, along with 52,200 Amazon reward points. I also used 128,000 Delta Sky Miles, along with $240 of the Delta Stays credit on my Sky Miles Reserve card. And I also used 4 one-time guest passes to the Delta Sky Club. And after all the credits posted, I have spent $0 on this trip. Now, I want to clarify that this is not a trip that my family takes every single year. I have in fact never utilized this many points or benefits all at once. But it's certainly been a super fun trip, and I'm really glad that I did it. If you found any of this video interesting, let me know down below. I would love to know what you liked about this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this style of video. If you did, hit subscribe and the like button. Until the next video, I'll see you next time.